Thank you for the introduction, Eugene and Daniela, and for the privilege of opening the session of discussions for today. Indeed, I decided we will discuss today about cat risks, about climate change, and about how different countries try to protect themselves, their population, and their properties against these risks. As you said, there are different types of partnerships around the globe. In our case, it's a private company, 100% private capital, but with involvement of the state, and that means the legislation under which we are functioning, it's given by the state. Project has been developed at the initiative of the government, so 10 years ago, because this year we celebrate 10 years of activity. We started our activity. So Romania is among the countries who have a system, a protection system in place. It has been created ex ante to protect the dwellings in Romania, with the main aim to reduce the budgetary impact on the government if a big event will happen, so that the public funds can be used for other objectives like infrastructure, hospitals, schools, and whatever will be needed, because lots of funds will be needed if such an event will happen. Another role that we are having is to build a solid financial reserve so that we can pay and we can protect against the extreme phenomenon, the population. We believe we have as well another role in developing educational, financial education programs for the general public, so that we can promote the insurance, the dwelling insurance in Romania, and the benefits, the fact that there are tools by which population can be protected. And even though penetration is still at 20% at this time, we do have 1.7 million policies in force already. So same number of families are relying on PAID to protect their main asset. In terms of vision, I believe we aim to be efficient and sustainable. And when we say efficient, we want to be able to pay as fast as possible the claims if events occurs. We want to make population aware of the risk that they are exposed to and the benefits of insurance. We want to be efficient in evaluating the risk very well, so we invested a lot in increasing the quality of the data so that we can have a proper evaluation of those risks and very good risk management politics in place. When we are talking about sustainability, at the end of 2018, we managed to have a solvency ratio above 200%. A combined ratio of 83%, and a very solid reinsurance program with the limit at 200 years return, for similar to an event for 200 years return period according to RMS model. Looking back, when we started in 2009 at the capital level, it was a very modest one, around 4.6 million euro, and in 10 years we managed to increase it almost 10 times, which we believe it's a good achievement. It's now at the level of 42 million euro. That is mainly because of the level of the loss ratio, and you can see on the left that on average since the beginning the loss ratio was about 3%. Which is quite low. We have some spikes in some of the years, but not above 10%. So this is one of the reasons we could accumulate funds and build up the capital. Another reason is the generosity of the shareholders and their prudent approach in deciding to keep all the profits in the company. So for 10 years now, money was been taken away from the company. Funds was consolidated constantly. In what regards the objectives for 2019 and the years coming after, Capital consolidation remains a priority, together with the solvency ratio. Optimization of the reinsurance program as well. Increasing the penetration ratio will be one of the main focuses we will have, because as we said, we are at the level of 20% and 80% of the population are still not covered. So that's a huge vulnerability for the dwelling stock. In this sense, we started already a communication campaign. We started it this year on March, on the date when we commemorated 40 years since the event in 1977, so the big earthquake in 77. We will continue to do so all the year, hoping to increase awareness, hoping to make population aware that the risk can happen and they have a solution, a very cheap one and very easy, simple, easy to access. Hopefully that will drive the penetration rate upward. And another objective that we plan to focus our efforts on is the implementation of the mass claims, and that's a huge project that we started a few years ago. We are working together with the industry. It's a plan that involves everybody, so it's not just about, it's about all the insurance companies, a very complex one. The main aim is to align all the procedures, to unify the resources of all sorts, human resources, financial one, so that we can have a unitary approach and that we can react as a market in a positive way if something big will happen. Some data, I believe it would be interesting to present today about the exposure. So we know we have 1.7 million dwellings, out of which 94% are Type A and 6% Type B. Type B policies are usually the ones who are covering dwellings with very poor materials like adobe. In the rural area, we have 25% of the dwellings insured, 75% will be located in the urban areas, 42% will be houses, and 58% will be within a block of flats. In terms of building year, 60% of them are built after 77, so the year in which the biggest event, biggest earthquake had happened. So we can see here the behavior of the consumer. We see that majority of people who are insuring their houses are people living in urban areas with newer buildings, probably young families or the ones who have loan at the bank, so they are forced to do it. So that's what we can see in our data. As I said before, penetration rate is almost 20%. It's 90.03%. Bucharest, the capital, has the biggest penetration rate of 39%, followed by Ilfov. Ilfov is is the county around Bucharest, so the surrounding area, with 38%. Brașov, 33%. Rest of the country, more or less insured. You will see in the following slides the distribution of the policies throughout the country. What we discovered in our analysis, looking deeper into the risks, that actually, even though at the national level penetration is 20%, the buildings built after 2010, for example in urban and rural area, are insured in a proportion of above 50%. So in 2017 it was 57%. So that's a different totally approach. The newer building, the owners, the ones who have loans, they tend to insure their houses. In the urban areas even more, so 70% last year. So that means from the risk perspective, it means that our portfolio, it's a good one, it's a new one. It's a qualitative one, but from the social point of view means that the more vulnerable persons and owners of dwellings are still exposed. So that means that they are less insured, and that's not good because our role is to protect the whole country, not only the urban areas and the newer buildings. I mean, there is more to be done on this side. In terms of distribution around the country, basically we have a good balance of policies around the country. You will see the darker areas are the ones with a higher penetration rate and follow the same logic, where in those counties are bigger cities with economical power, so that's why the penetration is high. It's Cluj-Napoca, it's Timișoara, it's București, Brașov, and so on. Unfortunately, the exposed area like Vrancea for earthquake is not very covered, as well the southern part as well. In terms of protection, we do protect our portfolio with the help of reinsurance. So we buy a program of 900 million euro capacity, with the support of a very strong panel of reinsurers, 70 of them, supporting this program. Capacity comes, 46% of the capacity comes from reinsurers with AA rating, 50% with A+, and A++, and only 4% coming from reinsurance with A-, so a very stable and financial solid reinsurance program. We have become the biggest buyer of NAT cat reinsurance in CEE. We are very proud of our achievement on this side. I think we are on the map of the countries where protection is in place. It's a program which is very well seen by the international world. They believe we are doing a good job in protecting the dwellings of the people. Of course, there is the problem of penetration, which always, or until it will be solved, is the main thing that we have to work in. And as conclusions, at the end, as I said, Romania is protected. So Romania has a system in place for 10 years now. PAD policy, it's a simple policy, easy to understand, affordable from the financial point of view, at the disposal of every homeowner. 900 million euros are available immediately after one event, with the condition, of course, to have the policy. You have to be insured for that. We believe we are a strong and ready to act company in case something will happen. And as I said before, the main problem is that 80% of the residential buildings are still not insured and vulnerable. That was my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, if there are any.
Natalia, first of all, thank you for this very informative presentation. I'm very happy to see how PAID progressed over time, and now the government, the biggest accomplishment, there's like 1 billion less for the government to pay in case of a major cat event, which is a huge achievement. While you're still behind TCIP, which we'll speak shortly, which has like 4 billion, I think, that it accumulated over the last 20 years, that government has to pay less. So still Romania is a smaller country, and you started somewhat later than TCIP, 10 years later. So it's a huge accomplishment, and I congratulate you on this. So since the topic of this or theme of this panel has been climate change and how it affects different insurance entities, and what one can do to accommodate climate change challenges going forward, my question to you is that how does climate change so far affected PAID? Like, do you see like additional losses due to perils that have been progressing? This is number one. Do you see any problems with placing reinsurance capacity or increasing prices? Number 2. And number 3, of course, I've heard from the new vice chairman of FIAR that there are plans to increase the scope of coverage by including additional catastrophic perils in your scope. And so I wonder how you view that and what is your perspective on that, I would say, regulatory initiative.
Okay, so thanks for the questions. The first one regarding the climate change, I believe covering earthquake doesn't have any impact, but on the other ones, flood and landslide, is more and more obvious for everybody that weather is changing, climate is changing. We can see tornadoes happening in Romania, and that has never happened before. That will answer the third question as well, with the intention of having that peril covered as well. In terms of discussions with reinsurance, we believe flood is not such a big problem, or at least since we started 10 years ago, we didn't really experience big events. We can see higher frequency, but not that high to influence the price or the discussion so far. The main driver for our insurance program is the earthquake, and that's quite stable in terms of any changes of the climate. There are discussions to extend the scope of cover. We will have to analyze the impact. We will have to restructure the reinsurance program, probably next year or immediately after the changes will occur. It will be an additional burden from our side, so we'll have to see how to accommodate that. In the same time, I think it's a positive message for the population, so they have more perils now covered. They can access even one more risk when buying the PAD policy. So overall, I think we'll have to manage this change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think we should continue during the circle of debates this conversation, but I'm actually very intrigued by the fact that you as a big pool which specializes in cat events, including flood, do not see major changes in your loss profile due to more frequent climate-induced floods, which is actually good. And it's slightly counterintuitive when we talk about climate change. So this is an interesting message. And that the fact that the reinsurance market hasn't really been asking for a premium for that. So, but let me not monopolize the question and answer session because I can question you indefinitely. Let me ask the audience if there are any questions to Natalia about Paid's business. No? Please.
Thank you. I have not one, but 3 questions. 3.
Wow,
3
please.
Very easy questions to reply. Well, first of all, your presentation was excellent, by the way. It was very clear, and I say this from the point of view of a Spaniard who has not a very accurate knowledge about Paid. So you gave a very good overview. I still have some questions. First of all, as a pool, who are the shareholders of your organization? That would be the first question. The second question is how do you deal with claims handling? And the third one is previous to claims handling, how do you cope with loss adjustment? Do you have your own teams? You rely on the researchers from the market? Those were my questions. Many questions, but very easy to
answer, yes. So the shareholders of Paid are the insurance companies in Romania. As I said, it's 100% private capital. The board of administrators as well represented by the insurance companies. The selling is done through the same insurance companies, not only the shareholders, but the other one as well. So all the insurance companies in Romania can sell the policies, and the one who sells the policy has the duty to handle the claim as well. So this is the system. We act more like a coordination center. We're just a small number of people coordinating, doing reinsurance, and making sure that from solvability point of view, we're fine, but in terms of operational, everything it's done by the insurance companies. And I think that works very well because our policy covers the dwelling up to a level of protection, so 20,000 euro. So for the same dwelling, if the owner wants to be protected, he has the option to buy the facultative policies on top of that. So if an event happens to the same location, it makes sense to send the same insurance company to operate and do the assessment at the location. So that's the idea, that's the business model in which we have been created.
Thanks very much, Natalia. So, more questions? All right, but one, not three.
Free.
Only one per person. So, Klima.
Very technical question. Because of the freedom of services and freedom of establishment, it is possible in the branch office or foreign insurance companies who doesn't have subsidiary to be part of PIDE and to offer also their services in the Romanian market. And second, because of the behavioral theory, let's say, and the perception of the citizen, do you think that because of the very low claims ratio, this is the reason maybe why there is not much incentives from the potential householder or even from the industry side not to push the things and to increase the penetration rate because of this perception that because the perception about the cat event, especially for the earthquake that happen very rare, it's something that actually it's influence the penetration rate.
Yeah. So for the first question, the answer would be that if the company is authorized to write business, NAT cat business in Romania, then he can sell the insurance, the PAD policies. I'm not quite sure if they can become shareholders. They have to be, I believe they have to be an insurance companies, yeah. They have to be authorized insurance companies operating in Romania to act as shareholders. The second question, you are right, low frequency, at least in what regards earthquake, because the last big event has happened in 77. It was another one after 2000, I believe, but it didn't create so much loss. So the memory of people is not that good. People tend to forget after some tens of years. Floods are not that frequent, or they are frequent but not that big in size in Romania. So maybe you are right somehow that people don't really feel the necessity on one side. On the other side, I think the mentality has been inherited from the past times that state will step in most of the time. So there is a lot of work to be done to change mentalities. Financial education is not at the level that it should be. But we are working on that. As we said, we took the role of working and having projects on that side as well. But we are trying to advertise as much as we can the claims that we are paying, so that people can see that they really have a benefit out of it. So they are not just buying a big piece of paper, is really creating benefits.
Thank you, Natalia. One more question.
Thank you so much for your excellent presentation. I'm just wondering what the relationship is between the reinsurance companies and you in terms of understanding risks and sharing that type of information and maybe capacity, etc.
Well, from what we are told, we have excellent data because we are a new company, we have a simple product, so we are able to collect very good data. So that helps a lot in our modeling and risk assessment. We are very careful and we invest a lot on that side, so in IT and in evaluating the risk. We pass that information. We always want it to be very transparent towards reinsurance so that they can understand and follow with trust our portfolio. And as you can see, we have 70 reinsurers. 50% of the capacity is AA. That means that there is trust. We built a very good relationship over the years. I don't know if I if I answer your question. Yeah, but very, very important for us, the data quality. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Natalia, very much.